Sparks flying at a press conference today. Joe Biden and a reporter from Fox News in a strange back and forth that has people divided. But how do you feel about it? Was it inappropriate or was it just a joke? Something refreshing. That's what some others are saying. I'm going to play the clip in just 1 second and we'll go over what you think about it. But first, let's lay a quick baseline. The reporter who asked the question is this guy, Steve Doocy, who you may recognize from Fox and Friends if you watch that program. He's sort of filled the role that Jim Acosta has left open in the press briefing room. And he's one of the few people, honestly, who is asking tougher questions of Biden on a regular basis. This is because everybody else seems to still be in a bit of a honeymoon phase. So we are talking about a moment where Biden just got off the phone with Vladimir Putin, the leader of Russia, their first such phone call. And as he was leaving, the Fox News reporter Steve Doocy asked the president a question. He says to President Biden, "What did Putin say?" And that's where we begin.
Mr. President, what you talking to Vladimir Putin about?
You.
And he walks away. One more time.
You.
You, and he sent his best, says the president as he's leaving. The first line, you, got a little laugh out of the rest of the press corps. The he sent his best, I don't know, maybe that did as well. The reactions on this are pretty mixed, though. Here's Yashar Ali, who tweeted out, "Putin's best for journalists is knife, bomb, saw, a needle," right? This is a guy who has journalists killed on the regular in his country. Is that a proper response from the president to say he sends you his best? Some people not agreeing. In fact, here is Claire DeLune. She says, "This is small in the grand scheme of things, but I really missed having a president with a sense of humor." And somebody else followed up, "That was one of Trump's many issues. He's not funny, like, at all. Sometimes I feel like he would try to be funny and it would get taken literally and fall apart from there. The chosen one," quote, as an example. Well, we need to know more about what this call was all about. The Biden administration says they had a conversation with Putin where they talked about the Russia protests, condemned harsh tactics, and also talked about Navalny, who is the gentleman who has been the center of these recent protests in Moscow and beyond. This is not without any sort of background of importance. In fact, according to Wikipedia, there's a whole section about, a whole page, in fact, of journalists killed in Russia. It's been estimated that 21 journalists have been killed since Russian President Vladimir Putin came to power in March of 2000. In the great majority of the cases, no one has been sentenced for the murders. No one has been sentenced for the murders. Even the United States House of Representatives passed something called Resolution 151, calling on Putin to step up efforts to investigate those murders. In a report published in 2007, they said more journalists have died of violent deaths in Russia in the 10 previous years, than anywhere in the world apart from Iraq, where there was a war zone at the time. So this is obviously a man who has a very tough relationship, to say the least, with journalists. Putin and journalists don't go well, and he has possibly ended up killing a bunch of these people for disagreeing with him and the Russian government and the Kremlin thought process. So let's watch it again. Is it just a joke or is it inappropriate?
Mr. President, what you talking to Vladimir Putin about?
You.
You know, he was clearly, I think, joking about this. But let's not kid ourselves. Even though it's really early on into the Biden administration, he clearly doesn't like Steve Doocy. He probably doesn't like Fox News. He probably doesn't like one of the few members of the press asking him those more difficult questions each day. So it's very possible that President Biden probably let the reporter get under his skin. And when he tossed off this nonchalant line about, "I talked to him about you, Doocy," and he sends his best, while he might not have meant much by it, it really explains why people are taking this in a different way. Especially if you were somebody who was a journalist currently in Russia. And most of these news organizations that laughed at the joke certainly have brethren in that country covering Putin and facing that same fate potentially if they disagree. But what do you think? That's the big question. What do you think about Biden's off-the-cuff remark?
Mr. President, what you talking to Vladimir Putin about?
You.
Is that inappropriate or is it just funny? Is it refreshing or does it upset you? Let me know. I know you will. You always do. And I'll talk to you real soon.